courtesy of the Zone. We see the return of Virgil Ortiz. I'd like to see him go some rounds tomorrow night, man, because I mean the last two fights he's really only had literal 2 rounds to go by, and I think that's within the span of like a couple of years. So I'd like to see him a little busy tomorrow, but we'll see. I think there's a pending fight with Tim Tszyu, and it looks like they're gonna try to do this fight, man. Seems as such, right? If both guys win their fights. But other than that, man, let's get to the topic at hand. Canelo Alvarez and Turki Alalshikh, man. This is getting very interesting. So it's clear, it's pretty clear that the Riyadh season, Turki Alalshikh, they are becoming somewhat of the new power brokers in boxing, and you're starting to see that his involvement in the sport is going across the board, meaning it's not just segmented to one outfit. He has deals now with Top Rank, with Golden Boy. He's already been working with Matchroom, and he's been working now. And even in this last card, you saw several guys from the PBC outfit. So the notion that at one point we were being told that if you're with this network or if you're with this promoter that these fights can't be made, on the surface, Turki Alalshikh is proving that that is not the case. And as long as somebody's providing this, then just so everybody knows, the card last week, which, there's reports coming out now that they reportedly lost like $10 million. Again, that's just stuff I'm reading. I can't say it's factual information, but there's talks that there was some money lost over the weekend, or over the last weekend. But that card was presented by DAZN, was presented by Amazon, was presented by ESPN Plus pay-per-view, which is crazy. You had 3 different ways to watch this fight, but then I asked myself, like, who's really profiting off of this? But anyway, so it's pretty clear that some of the big talk in boxing has been this back and forth between Canelo Alvarez and Turki Alalshikh. Now, where this stems from, Turki Alalshikh clearly is in the Terence Crawford business, right? Meaning he is trying to provide Terence Crawford with fights that unfortunately Crawford didn't get earlier in his career, be it for a lot of different reasons, but he's trying to kind of make up for some of the lost time that Crawford's had, with really not much time left for Crawford, admittedly by him when recently asked. I mean, he's kind of telling us, man, like, he don't got a big window of opportunity for him to get into big fights and to make big money. He knows that. So the talk we were hearing earlier this year was this proposed fight between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. We just saw Bud and Madrimov, right? A very good fight. Some people are arguing it was a draw. Some people are arguing for Madrimov. Some people... But with a lot of the sentiment coming out of that fight was people were now questioning whether or not Crawford should go up to fight Canelo Alvarez. But where things are getting funny now is Turki Alalshikh's rebuttals to Canelo concerning the payouts, right? And none of us really know, just to be fair, none of us know if there's been offers being made, or any of that, right? But much of the sentiment from not so much the Canelo Alvarez fans, but hardcore boxing fans, wanting to see Canelo in there with. I mean, again, it's tough to say what's tough. What's the tough competition at this point, or what is a big fight? There's really only 2 for Canelo, and that's David Benavidez and Terence Crawford, right? Cosmetically, but when you look at anything from 154 to 168. There's really not a lot for Canelo to work with at this point, right? And what Canelo's been paid thus far in this deal with the PBC is a $35 million guarantee, right? That's not including the proceeds. And from a recent interview that Canelo gave, where he's admitting like he gets 80% of the entire proceeds of any fight that he's involved in, going all the way from the joke of the concession stands to the gate, to the pay-per-view, all of that. That's a lot of money to be fighting guys, no disrespect, like Edgar Berlanga. So what Turki Alalshikh is saying is like, and again, this is on the surface, I will pay you good money, but you have to fight a Terence Crawford or a David Benavidez. And I understand where people will get the notion that he's trying to force Canelo's hand, right? Like, I get that. And Canelo, at the end of the day, he doesn't have to listen to anybody, right? You know, he's really the controlling factor. And for all we know, this is, and shout to Train, man, he said this like some time ago, man, that this very well could be Canelo's like victory lap, the parade tour before he retires. And the crazy thing is, man, Canelo right now can retire first ballot, you know, first ballot Hall of Famer, you know, and I don't think there would be any disputing that. There'd be people obviously complaining, oh, you didn't fight Benavidez or Crawford, but like, we have to be fair here, okay? I think obviously Canelo at this stage of his career can command the dollar. He really can. And in cases where we want him to get in there with the likes of David Benavidez or again, a Terence Crawford, which I run him, you know, shout out to my man Eric, who's always followed us and followed me with the boxing. He's always been down the middle with Canelo, but I guess like for me, and this is just my opinion with things, okay? I think for Canelo, it really comes down to whether or not it's the money, or if, quite honestly, this is just what he wants to do with his career. Because look, we got to remember that Canelo is only 34, but in boxing years, he's been around the block, yo. Like, he's been around the block. So being that he's become undisputed at 168, he got a title at 175, accolades wise, there's really nothing else for him to do, like, for him to prove, right? There's really nothing else except for anything monetary, very big money. And I guess from the options that he has, is really only two. As far as when we talk about like him being paid a lot of money, it really is Crawford or Benavidez. The funny part is that there are many people who believe that Terence Crawford, particularly, is hanging fruit for Canelo. Meaning like Canelo's hardcore fans and Canelo himself, where he kind of even admits, he's like, all right, well, if you pay me money, you know, that's an easy fight. He literally said that. So I guess for me, I understand like there's weight classes, but I also look at it from the perspective of, well, you're already fighting a guy that you're clearly going to beat. And if you're going to get paid even that much more money to fight a guy that equally people think you're already going to beat, why would you not take the hanging fruit? And there's part of me that but then there's the other side. Like, and there's the other side. Like, what if Crawford actually were to pull this off? Does it hurt Canelo's legacy? See, for me, I'm of the opinion that it doesn't. People could talk about Crawford going up in weight, and there's different sides of the coin you could look at it. Like, you could look at it from a positive end of Crawford doing what he did, but I don't think historically Canelo's, I don't think his stock goes down losing to another great fighter in his era. You know, I understand the weight classes and things as such, but I'm just what I'm just a little curious about, and none of us know what offers have been given to Canelo. I don't think any offers have been given to Canelo, to be honest with you. But what is really the target price for Canelo to fight either one of those guys if it is money? I am okay. Listen, to be quite honest, if Canelo wants to keep fighting these level of fights until he retires, like, I'm honestly okay with it, because if anybody's gonna pay that kind of money, be it the PBC, Matchroom individually, without him having to go to Turkey, Alashik, and if they pay him a $35 million guarantee to fight, let's just say Chris Eubank Jr., right? If you're Canelo, put yourself in Canelo's shoes, why would you turn that down? So it's like, I understand, it's a balance. I get why people get pissed, but people have to also understand, like, where Canelo is in his career right now. It's business at the end of the day, and I almost guarantee that Canelo's this is what people got to remember. Canelo's throwing out his figure, right? But in business, you come back and say, look, I ain't gonna pay you 150, 200 million, but I got like 75 million up front. We'll work out the proceeds. He would get the percentage of everything, the higher end. But in business, man, you go back to the table and you negotiate if that is what... You never just say, you never not take the first offer and walk away if you really want to work together. Which is why, again, for even on Canelo's end, I don't think he's closed that door. I think the door's like, it's smidged open, and he's like, look, man, I gave you my number. What can you come back at? You tell me Canelo's not going to pay attention to a $75 million guarantee? I'm just throwing shit against the wall. But you know what I mean. That's why I'm not convinced yet that Canelo's just going to, like, not entertain something, okay? I think what he's doing, and I think what they're both doing, is just posturing. At some point, you got to go where the money's at, man. And if Canelo wants that bread, at least right now, the PBC ain't dishing out 75 million a rip, or they're having a tough time even giving him the 35, you know? So, but we'll see, man. All I say with that is just stay tuned. I don't think this story's over yet. And Canelo's a smart dude. He's a smart businessman, and I don't think the idea is for him to just run to Turkey Alashikh to get money. They're going to work, because when it concerns Canelo Alvarez, man, that's a major property. And this guy, Turkey Alashikh, respectfully has to understand it, and I think he kind of does. So don't close the door on that yet. I want to see how things play out, but when there's a lot of money involved, man, very seldom do people walk away from that, okay? Particularly Canelo Alvarez. So stay tuned for that. But we'll see, man. We'll see. I'm not trying to throw Canelo under the bus yet or anything like that, because I feel at the end of the day, if I were to gamble, I would think cooler heads are gonna prevail. I personally think so, because if there's this much money, bro, and Canelo ain't gonna walk away from that kind of money, bro. I personally don't think so, and I feel like it's gonna be hard to pay Canelo like those 35 mil guarantees to fight like certain level of guys, and they're expect to be a profit back. A fight with Crawford or Benavidez, at least in the immediate, is the biggest monetary fight that he can make, and then the company putting the fight together would make. This is how this shit gets done, you know? So I think I'm just holding off, and let's get past next month, and we'll see. So, any case, man, that's all I got. Happy Friday. Boxing tomorrow on DAZN. We see the return of Virgil Ortiz, who honestly, man, he's a second option if this Crawford and Canelo fight doesn't actually happen at all, and he's another option, man. And I'd love to see that fight. Does Bud get up for that fight, though? That's a question. So, but that's pretty much it. Shout out to my man Eric. Always always following us, man. But yeah, Eric, yeah, exactly. Like, I would say all right, so and somebody brought up a good point too before I go. Like, Turkey Alashikh's already paying these guys like a lot of money, right? I don't know, like, figure-wise, like, I'm not going to try and put out numbers there, but I think he clearly has enough money to pay Canelo his biggest guarantee that isn't 150 million. But the truth of it is, Canelo would be deserved of the high percentage of the gate, the pay-per-view, and things as such, because he is, at the end of the day, Canelo is the attraction. But in a lot of, you got to look at the B side in this equation, particularly, you know, when you're talking about Crawford and Benavidez, who would bring something to the table as far as the event, right? I always bring up with Canelo and Triple G. Triple G didn't sell shit on pay-per-view, but why is he Canelo's second, third biggest pay-per-view of his career? Because of the matchup. Think of the same thing here, but Canelo getting the biggest pie, you know, the biggest bread of his career, man. So, in any case, enjoy your Friday. I'm out. And any updates, you know, I'm back here, man.